Hi, it's Brad McNish from Sapalo, and I wanted to give you some insight into what goes into the growing and manufacturing of BarleyLife. A lot of what happens to make that product nutrient dense and an incredibly excellent product has to take place at the farm level. So from the very beginning, we chose to grow the product organically. Here in northern Alberta, which is just north of Edmonton in Canada, what we decided is that we had to start with a farm that had been in organic production for some time. The farm that we presently grow this product in has been an organic farm. This is its 9th year, as a matter of fact. And the interesting thing about growing products organically is you must work within an entire cycle of nature. It's a very sustainable cycle because what we do is we use the natural cycles of the soil, of the air, of the water to help us make sure we grow the right product. In order for us to do that, we had to identify the right type of soil conditions, and certainly up here in Barrhead, Alberta, we certainly have ideal black soil conditions, which gives us an opportunity to maximize the nutrient density of this product. We seed our seed directly into this seed bed, and we seed it a little higher density so that we get the density of the crop that we need so that it suppresses weed growth, because as that plant comes out of the ground, it creates this canopy that frankly just makes it very hard for weeds to compete. The question for us is, when do we harvest it? Once we've seeded it and the soil has looked after growing it, when is the ideal time to harvest it? Well, there is an ideal time, and that time is typically identified by the number of leaves on the plant. We call it the 5-leaf stage. It's going to be approximately 15 to 17 inches tall. And the reason that we can tell this stage very easily, it's long before it decides to go to seed, or where it starts to form a head that you would typically associate with barley as a grain. When we harvest it at the right time, then we've maximized the nutrient density, because at that point this plant is still very busy storing nutrients to protect itself from any of the elements, whether it be drought or too much rain or too much sun or whatever the conditions may be, and it protects itself by maximizing the amount of nutrition in its leaves. When it arrives in the plant, the product is washed, because as you appreciate, this plant has been sitting out there in the field for the last 30 days, and well, frankly, there's some things that perhaps we just want to make sure we wash from the product. And the product enters a big press. The press stage is probably the most critical stage, because it is literally where we separate the juice from the plant. Because in essence, it's the juice that we're after, and that's what the pressing stage gives us. And you'll often notice that when you're standing near the press, when this juice is coming out, this dark green juice just literally oozes from the sides of the press as the press squeezes from the plant the valuable nutrients that we're looking for. So from the time that it has left the field until the time that it is in the juice form and quickly chilled to approximately 3 degrees Celsius, you're probably looking at about 30 minutes, which isn't really a very long period of time. Now, I said there's a lot of juice in barley. Like if you just look at it, if you take a pound of barley or a kilogram of barley, about 3/4 of that weight is juice, and most of that weight is water. So what has to happen is we have to remove the water to begin to concentrate the product. Once we have this juice into this concentrated form, we add some of the ingredients that we need to add to it to ensure that it has good shelf life and good mixability. And once those ingredients are mixed together, then the product is transferred to the spray dryer. What it does is it takes the juice and creates a very, very fine mist that is sprayed into some warm air. And the water that is in that mist is quickly flashed off or evaporated, and as the mist falls through the dryer, the water is dried off, and what you end up landing in the bottom of the dryer is the powder that really represents the nutrients that were in the juice in the first place. Once the powder is dry, it is conveyed through a conveying system to a bagging area where the product is bagged into large brown bags. And those nutrients in the dry form are the green powder that you've come to know as BarleyLife. During this entire process, we pay very careful attention to taking the samples of the product throughout the various processes. We take samples of the juice, we take samples of the powder. As a matter of fact, when we're producing the powder from the spray dryer, a sample is collected every 60 minutes to ensure that we are meeting the parameters that are set out in the quality that we're looking for in this product. What are those parameters? While we do some of the big tests, of course, we test for protein, we test for chlorophyll levels. But the other thing we must make sure is that the product is safe. And when we talk about safe, what we mean is that it is free from bacteria. We also send those exact same samples to a third-party lab to verify our results. This is just something we're not prepared to get wrong. But it doesn't even stop there. Once the product comes back from a third-party lab, we inform AIM that the product is ready to ship to them. They then take a sample of the product and they also do their own testing. Once AIM verifies that those results are consistent and well within the limits, then the product is ready to be sent to packaging. Presently, the packaging occurs in Vancouver, British Columbia, and that company there that packages it, they also do their own testing. 4 tests to ensure that this product is meeting the rigorous quality standards that we've set. And I'm very happy to report that we meet those quality standards each and every time. Well, that's the process. I hope you have a better understanding of what goes into producing the best barley powder in the world. BarleyLife. Enjoy.